Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, reporter Kyle Mullins. Kyle, thanks for coming in.
Always great to be here, Brittany.
Your team is estimating the net worths of the Supreme Court justices, and you are kicking it off with John Roberts. So before we dive into the numbers here, can you talk to us about who the Chief Justice is?
Absolutely. So, yeah, we are launching our series about all nine Supreme Court justices, and we thought we would start with the richest one. That's Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice John Roberts. He was raised in Indiana. Went to private schools his entire childhood. Went to Harvard for undergrad, Harvard for law school. Didn't actually know he wanted to be a lawyer until after he went to law school. Fun little factoid. After that, he went back and forth between government positions and private practice. Made a lot of money in private practice, made a lot less money in government positions, but he tends to reflect fondly on his time, especially in the Reagan administration, H.W. Bush administration. Was up for a nomination for a circuit court position in 1992, I think it was, and his nomination lapsed after Bill Clinton won the presidency. So he spent another 10 years in private practice, built up a very nice nest egg, got appointed to a judgeship by George W. Bush. A couple years later, became the Chief Justice of the court. And that's what he's doing today.
And that is what he's doing today. But what's really interesting, you said he is the richest Supreme Court justice, but he also worked in two government administrations. So can you tell us how specifically in his private practices he built that wealth?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the first thing to know is if you're in private practice, you're almost definitely going to be making more money than you are in a government job. The government jobs often have better retirement packages or certain other benefits. Sometimes, in the case of his, being Chief Justice, he's got a lifetime appointment. He never has to worry about getting fired ever again. But he makes a lot less money. That's the trade-off. So he built up a pretty large nest egg in his 10, 15 years in private practice, if I'm remembering my math correctly. Built up a pretty decent nest egg. By 2001, which is the first time we have a Senate filing from him, he and his wife, who was also in private practice, by the way, and we'll get to that, the two of them built up a nest egg. I want to say I should check the number, but I think it was about $3 million when he was first nominated for the court. Made it to about $5 million by the time he made it onto the Supreme Court. And from there, his nest egg has just grown dramatically with the stock market. If you had $5 million in 2005 and you put it in the S&P 500, you're going to do pretty darn well. So that's the general view of how he got rich.
I'm hearing some numbers that are in the millions, 3 million, 5 million. I think the viewers are dying with anticipation right now. What is Chief Justice John Roberts' net worth?
We have him estimated at $25 million. About 20 million of that is his kind of cash pile of cash investments, lots of different mutual funds, stocks, bonds, all these kinds of things. He's invested pretty aggressively over the years. Most of it is in the market. Most of it's in the stock market. And then the rest is, his judicial pension, which is worth a little over $2 million. And his, he's got some real estate. He has his home in Maryland, and he's got two homes up in Maine.
I want to read you a sentence that you wrote that stuck out to me. You wrote, "The Chief Justice was already rich by the time he joined the Supreme Court. Forbes estimates his fortune has roughly quintupled since then." So can you talk about how it's just grown? Is it because he's such an aggressive investor?
So part of it is the aggressive investment. Like I said, if you took $5 million in 2005 and you plug that into the S&P 500, you're going to do just fine. The S&P 500's done very well since then. But the other thing that's really helped is that his wife stayed in private practice. Jane Roberts, who he met in the 90s, they got married in the 90s, they adopted two kids together in 2000. Jane Roberts is definitely the breadwinner these days. She is one of the top legal recruiters in Washington, so she helps connect people with lawyers, basically as a middleman between these institutions. And she has brought in incredible amounts of money. In fact, Business Insider reported they got their hands on some internal documents that we talk about in our piece a little bit that show that between I think it was 2007 and 2014 at this legal recruiting firm she was at, she made $10.3 million on commissions alone, or an average of $1.3 million a year. That's an incredible amount of money. That's like really, really high for someone to be making, this level of commissions. Now that's all alleged. We don't have the documents ourselves, but that's based on insiders reporting, and that's that's a pretty incredible amount of money to be making. So combination of strong stock market, strong economic growth, and a very strong breadwinner wife. The two are a power couple.
That is the definition of a power couple, and they also boast a pretty impressive real estate portfolio. Can you dive a little deeper into that?
Sure. So they've got their home in Maryland. All the justices have their homes in the D.C. area, whether it's in Maryland, D.C. proper, Virginia. They all live in the area. But Roberts and his wife also have two homes in Maine. They're both on Hupper Island, which is this very small, very remote island off the coast of Maine. It's only accessible by boat. There's no road to the island. And so it's very isolated. And when some justices are going off and they're flying around the world to, teach law classes in Italy or whatever, oftentimes the Chief Justice and his wife are going up to Maine and they're kind of secluding themselves for the summer during the court summer break. And then there's actually a fourth property as well. Jane has a 1/8 share in a cottage in Ireland. Her family's from Ireland. And so the rest of the people who have shares in the property are all members of her family. But the two of them have a 1/8 share in, but we valued it at about $15,000 for a cottage in Ireland.
When you're looking back at the last year, there have been questions raised about ethics regarding multiple justices. When you were digging into Chief Justice Roberts' wealth, did you find any ethic questions, quandaries, things like that?
So folks have definitely raised ethical questions about the commissions that I mentioned earlier that Jane Roberts was getting. People were like, is it really logical that someone is getting this level of compensation? Some of the firms that she was working with also have business in front of the court sometimes. So there's this, there's no allegations of sort of direct conflicts of interest, but these firms might know that they could pay they could pay Jane Roberts a higher commission, and they've paid some money to the wife of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And if they end up in front of the Supreme Court for whatever reason, we're not saying that provides them a benefit, but those ethical questions have been raised in the past. And we only know about these commissions because of these internal documents that were leaked by a whistleblower. So, that raises questions about the disclosure rules that the justices have to follow, which is what a lot of the controversies that we've seen the other justices get embroiled in. That's what those have focused around too, is that they didn't disclose things that could have presented conflicts of interest.
You mentioned this at the top of the conversation, but he's estimated to be the wealthiest justice. How does his net worth stack up to the other justices?
So I don't want to spoil too much yet because we haven't released all the stories, but
give us a little hint.
I'm giving you a hint.
We're excited. Okay, good.
Absolutely. So I don't want to spoil too much, but I will say most of the other justices are in the single-digit millions. So he has, I think I noted in the story, in addition to being worth more than twice as much as the President of the United States, Joe Biden, who we have estimated at $10 million, he's also worth probably more than twice as much as the rest of the justices on the Supreme Court, not combined, but in total. So it's a pretty remarkable fortune that he's built for himself.
Having a fortune in the single-digit millions still isn't a bad place to be, though, Kyle. I bet you can agree to that.
Oh, absolutely. I wish I had a fortune in the single-digit millions.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Kyle Mullins, thank you for your reporting. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Brittany. Always a pleasure.